They said I didn't deserve a seat at the table, then used my childhood photo to raise money online. Is he worth everything you've lost? I asked, as the house they stole from me went into foreclosure. My hands were still shaking when I closed the email. I had to read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Subject line: closing date confirmed. Property sale finalized. The sender? Odell Thompson, my grandmother, the woman who raised me since I was 6. The same woman who once held my hand through nightmares, whispered bedtime stories when I couldn't sleep, and told everyone I was the child fate gave her. And now she had sold our home. My home. Not only did she sell it, she never even told me. I didn't find out from her. I found out because I was accidentally CC'd on an email to her lawyer confirming the sale. The 3-bedroom craftsman house on 16th Street where I grew up was now legally gone. Finalized, settled, sold. I stared at the screen, paralyzed, barely hearing the boiling water on the stove behind me. My eyes burned. My chest felt like it had caved in. I stood in my kitchen, thousands of miles away, realizing that the only place that had ever felt like home had been taken away from me like it meant nothing. I called her. She picked up on the second ring, voice as cheerful as ever. Hi, darling. How's the weather up there in Portland? I didn't answer her question. You sold the house? There was a pause. I could hear the slight hitch in her breath. Then she sighed. That long, soft, manipulative sigh she always used when she was about to say something awful and try to make it sound reasonable. Oh, Ronan, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. She just erased the entire foundation of my life and told me not to take it personally. It's just a house, she said, and Cassandra's wedding is such a special time. You understand. Cassandra, my cousin, the golden girl, the one who only started coming around again when her second divorce went viral on Facebook, the one who used to call my grandma that cranky woman, and moved to LA to become an influencer. And now, somehow, she was the one my grandma sold the house to support. She was the one Odell was helping. I gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, my knuckles white. You didn't even tell me you were selling, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Well, I didn't think you'd mind, she said breezily. You have your own place now, a good job. You're doing just fine, aren't you? Doing just fine? Yeah, sure. If just fine means working 60-hour weeks and still helping pay for grandma's medication last fall without ever getting paid back. If just fine means I used my savings to fix her damn roof after the last storm because Cassandra couldn't get time off to help. I lived in that house, I said slowly. I bled in that house. I buried Dad's ashes under the plum tree in the back. Did you forget that? That's dramatic, she said. I swear to God, she laughed. Then, as if pouring salt into my skin, she added, Sweetheart, Cassandra has been through so much. She needs this right now. You have everything. She needs family support. And I didn't? I was the one who stayed. I was the one who took care of her when she fell. I was the one who spent every Thanksgiving with her while Cassandra was off in Bali, finding herself. And now I was nothing but a footnote. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. I sat down at the kitchen table in silence. The water on the stove had boiled down to a sputtering hiss. I didn't move. Not until I opened Instagram. And that's when it hit me even harder. Cassandra had already posted about the wedding. A sponsored post, smiling next to her fiancé in a vineyard. Caption: Celebrating love in the place dreams come true. Can't wait for October. And the hashtags: 100 days, till a do, vineyard vows, grandma made it possible. I wanted to throw my phone. Not only had she posted it for clout, she had publicly thanked my grandmother for paying for it. And it worked. Dozens of comments, hearts, fire emojis. Queen behavior, and family goals from strangers who had no idea she was standing on the grave of everything I ever cared about. No mention of me. No invitation in my inbox. Not even a damn text. They hadn't just erased me from the house. They'd erased me from the family. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up rereading messages from last year, the year before. Old voicemails from grandma. Ones that used to make me smile. Now they felt like lies. Sometime around 2 a.m., I made a decision. Not a vengeful one. Not out of spite. Out of survival. I logged into my travel rewards account and started browsing flights. I clicked on the place I'd bookmarked but always pushed aside. Kyoto, Japan. I booked it. Departure, October 10th. Right on her wedding day. If I wasn't invited, I wasn't going to stay home and mourn it. I wasn't going to pretend this didn't crush me. But I also wasn't going to let them think I was broken. They wanted a wedding without me? Fine. Let them celebrate their perfect family. I was going to disappear from their lives so fully they'd feel the absence like a ghost in every photo. But just when I thought I was done being surprised, I got a message from an unknown number. No name, no profile picture. It simply said, Hey, I don't agree with what they did, but you should know. The house wasn't sold to pay for the wedding. Cassandra had other plans. I stared at it. My chest tightened. What the hell did that mean? I stared at the message. The house wasn't sold to pay for the wedding. Cassandra had other plans. No punctuation, no name. Just a flat, ominous sentence from an unknown number. My first instinct was to dismiss it. Probably some troll who saw my Instagram and wanted to stir up drama. But something about the timing, the wording, made me pause. I texted back, "Who is this?" No reply. I waited an hour. Nothing. I should have let it go. But when someone rips your entire foundation out from under you, you start questioning every truth you thought was solid. By the next morning, I was deep into internet sleuth mode. I searched the public records site for the property's buyer. Turns out the house had been transferred to an LLC 3 weeks before Cassandra's engagement announcement. The LLC's manager? Her fiancé. Not her. Him. A man I'd never even met. A man who, according to Google, ran a series of failed crypto startups and was currently facing 2 civil lawsuits for fraud. My blood ran cold. This wasn't about love or a wedding or even family. This was a transaction. I called Grandma again. She didn't pick up. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Did you sell the house to Cassandra's fiancé?" Still nothing. 3 days passed. Then, in the middle of the night, I got a response. Not a call, not a message, an email. Subject, "Let's not make this uglier than it needs to be." It was from Cassandra. My stomach twisted. She wrote, "Ronan, I know you're upset, but honestly, the way you're reacting is kind of extreme. Yes, Devin used the LLC to help with the purchase, but it was still a family decision. Grandma wanted us to have a fresh start. She believes in Devin's vision. If you loved her, you'd support what makes her happy." That last line hit me like a slap. If I loved her, I had dropped everything to help Grandma through chemo. I was the one who missed job interviews to sit beside her in waiting rooms. I was the one who fixed her roof, paid her heating bill when her pension ran dry, picked up groceries during lockdowns when Cassandra was self-isolating in the Bahamas. And now I was being told I lacked love because I wasn't thrilled she sold my childhood home to a guy whose entire LinkedIn profile was written like a TED Talk from a con artist. Something was wrong. This wasn't about love. This was manipulation. And my grandmother, my sweet, stubborn, big-hearted Odell, was caught in it. I called the only person who might give me the truth. My cousin Jonah. Jonah was Cassandra's older brother, the quiet one in the family. We hadn't spoken much in recent years, but he'd always been decent. A little aloof, but honest. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey," he said, voice groggy. "You okay?" "Not really," I admitted. "Can I ask you something? Off the record." "Sure." "Why did Grandma really sell the house?" Silence. Then he exhaled. "I've been wondering when you'd find out." I froze. "She didn't sell it for the wedding," Jonah said slowly. "That was the cover." "Then why?" "She co-signed a business loan for Devin. He needed collateral. The house was the only asset she had left." I couldn't speak. The rage crawled up my spine like fire. "You're telling me she risked her home for him?" "He told her it was a guaranteed return. Said he just needed 3 months." Cassandra backed him up. "Grandma didn't tell anyone except Aunt Lydia. I overheard them talking the night before the engagement dinner." I sank into my chair. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear. "She didn't want you to know," Jonah continued. "She said you'd try to stop her, that you wouldn't believe in Cassandra's future." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that came out before I could stop it. "She was right," I whispered. "I would have stopped her, because I don't trust a man who calls himself a visionary disruptor on Instagram." There was a pause. Jonah sighed. "Look, man, I don't agree with it, but there's more. You should know. Grandma didn't get any money from the sale. Not yet. Devin promised to flip the investment and return it triple before the wedding." I went numb. They hadn't just sold the house, they gambled it. They handed over the one stable thing left in our family, the only place that still held Dad's books, Mom's perfume bottles in the upstairs bathroom, the porch swing I fixed after the storm in '09, and used it as a poker chip in some tech bro's fantasy of success. And now, everyone was just pretending it was about love and celebration. I thanked Jonah. Hung up. Then I sat in the dark for what felt like hours. I thought about the email, about the tone, the entitlement, about how Grandma had slowly shifted from warm and wise to vague, apologetic, absent. That's when it hit me. She didn't just fall for Devin, she was being controlled. I remembered something Jonah once said about Cassandra when we were teens. "She doesn't need to burn bridges," he'd said. "She just waits until you forget they ever existed." And now, they'd erased me so thoroughly that even the walls that once held my baby pictures now belonged to a man who didn't know how to pronounce our last name. I opened my email. Wrote one sentence. To Odell Thompson. Subject, just one question. Message, is he worth everything you've lost? But I didn't hit send, not yet. Instead, I posted a photo. An old one, me sitting on the porch with grandma, age 7, popsicle in hand, her arms around me. Caption: funny how people forget who was there before the cameras showed up. An hour later, Cassandra blocked me. And that's when I knew. I was finally hitting a nerve. I didn't plan on checking my phone that morning. It was my second day in Kyoto, and the air felt like silk. Cool, clean, still tinged with spring. I was sitting at a small corner cafe, watching the steam curl off my matcha tea when I heard the first buzz. I ignored it. Then another, then 3 in a row. By the time I picked up my phone, I had 12 missed calls and over 30 texts. The first was from Jonah. Bro, it's happening. You're not going to believe this. The next was from an unknown number. Call your grandmother, emergency. Then Cassandra's name lit up my screen. Ronan, please just answer, please. I blinked. What the hell was going on? I scrolled through the texts, reading faster, my fingers trembling with every swipe. The wedding didn't happen. The venue pulled out, citing contract breach. The vendors walked, some claiming they hadn't been paid, and the groom, Devin, vanished. Left Cassandra at the rehearsal dinner. No note, no message, just gone. I stood up so fast I almost knocked over my tea. Every hair on my arms stood up. My phone buzzed again. It was a voicemail from Grandma. I pressed play. Her voice was frantic. Not the rehearsed cheerfulness she used to guilt-trip me. Not the airy indifference from weeks ago. This was raw, desperate. Ronan, please, honey, I didn't know. Devin is gone. He took everything. The money, the investment, he wiped the account. I think he's done this before. Please call me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I just thought. I stopped it right there. I didn't need to hear the rest. Because I already knew how it ended. The house was gone. The wedding collapsed. And now, suddenly, they remembered me. I turned off the phone, sat back down, took a slow sip of my tea. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt nothing. No rush to fix, no ache to be included, no guilt. But that peace didn't last long, because that night, while walking back to my ryokan under rows of lanterns, I got a DM from someone I didn't recognize. The username was random, just numbers and letters. No profile picture. But the message? It stopped me in my tracks. You should know Cassandra tried to get Devin to sign the house over to her name a week before the wedding. He refused. That's why he ran. I read it again, slower. The house wasn't enough. She wanted it entirely. No co-ownership, no shared asset, no risk. And when Devin refused, he disappeared. Because he knew she was playing him too. I leaned against a wooden post, my heart pounding. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. And I had been caught in the crossfire, used, discarded, forgotten, because they all thought I'd just take it. Like always. The next morning, I woke up to find dozens of messages from family. Uncle Greg, Aunt Lydia, even Grandma's church friends. Suddenly, everyone was checking in. Everyone wanted to talk. But none of those messages made me pause. Not until one from Jonah showed up. I know you've blocked most of us, but you should see this. He attached a screenshot of a GoFundMe page. Title: Help Cassandra rebuild her life after being abandoned at the altar. Goal: $100,000. Organizer: Odell Thompson. Her message below read, My granddaughter is facing unimaginable heartbreak. After giving everything she had, emotionally and financially, she was left with nothing. We ask for help from kind strangers to support her in this time of loss. I blinked. I literally couldn't move. I sat in bed, phone in hand, throat tightening. That same woman, who told me it was just a house, who dismissed my grief like it was a tantrum, was now calling on the world to rescue the same person who helped ruin everything. And here was the twist, the kicker. The part that made my chest physically hurt. At the bottom of the fundraiser was a photo. One I hadn't seen in years. A photo of me and Grandma sitting on the porch steps, my arm around her. Smiling. Her caption underneath? This family has always stood strong together. I dropped the phone. I couldn't breathe. They were using me, my image, my memory, my love, to manipulate strangers into giving money to a woman who had erased me like I never existed. And the worst part? No one would know. No one would ever know what she did. What they did. Because I didn't matter. Because I was the one who kept quiet. Because I never asked for anything. And I think that's what broke me. Not the betrayal, not the loss, not even the fact that they chose someone else. But that in their story, I was just a symbol, a background, a tool. So to anyone who's ever been told to understand, to forgive, to let it go for the sake of family, I see you. If you've ever been replaced, ignored, or used for someone else's gain, I know what that burn feels like. Sometimes the deepest heartbreak doesn't come from a breakup. It comes when people you loved treat your silence as permission. There's a moment, right before a storm breaks, when the wind changes. It's quiet, too quiet. That's where I was. In the silence before everything shifted. After discovering the GoFundMe with my face on it, I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, frozen. Something inside me cracked, but not in the way they expected. Not in the poor Ronan just can't let go way. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was war. They had dragged my name, my image, and the one good memory I had left into a narrative built on lies, and monetized it. That photo with Grandma? It wasn't taken at a wedding or a graduation or anything celebratory. It was the day we buried my father. She sat beside me, squeezed my hand, and told me she'd never let anyone replace my place in this family. Now she was using that same moment to collect sympathy money for someone who had helped take everything from me. And here's the thing about me. I'm quiet, but I keep receipts. Literal ones. 2 years ago, when I paid for her roof repair, I sent her an invoice. Not to collect, just so she'd have it for her records in case of future insurance claims. She never responded. I also kept the Zelle transactions from covering her medication co-pays last year. The Uber receipts when I took her to appointments. The photos I took while repairing the porch steps at her request. All of it. Because I've never needed to prove myself, until now. That night, I started building a file. I didn't post. I didn't rage text anyone. I just opened my laptop and worked. I screenshot the GoFundMe. Then every public comment where Cassandra was playing the victim. He used me. He manipulated our whole family. He promised to take care of Grandma. And I compared them to her own posts from months before, bragging about building our empire with Devin and calling him my business partner in life. Then I checked Devin's companies. They were already under investigation for tax discrepancies. I found the case number buried in a local finance blog. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Grandma wasn't just co-signing. According to state property records I pulled, the house was transferred outright into Devin's LLC 2 weeks before the engagement announcement. She didn't just back his idea, she gave him the house. No lien, no clause, no repayment plan, a clean handover. Meaning, when he disappeared, he didn't steal it. He legally owned it. The house was never meant for Cassandra. It was a gift from Grandma to him. That gutted me. Because for all the scheming I'd seen from Cassandra, I never believed my grandmother, my Odell, would give away the one thing we shared. The one thing that meant something real. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I emailed GoFundMe's fraud department. I laid everything out. That the fundraiser was using a photo of me without permission. That the story was built on a false narrative. That Cassandra was claiming financial hardship while simultaneously selling Instagram ads for beauty products under her wedding meltdown hashtag. And for the first time, I added the photo. The real one. The original version. No filters. Caption, me and my grandma. Minutes after my father's funeral. Then I hit send. By noon, the fundraiser was flagged for review. By 3 p.m., it was pulled offline. And at 3:22 p.m., I got a text. Blocked number, new account. But I knew the voice behind it. It was Grandma. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're hurting Cassandra. She's already lost everything. Is this how you repay family? I didn't respond. Not yet. I needed her to stew in it. Instead, I posted a new photo. Not of me, not of her, but of the house. An old one, taken the summer before I moved out. The porch swing I fixed, the flowers I planted. The light on the second floor where Dad used to read. Caption, funny how something can be legally yours and still never belong to you. Within hours, I got a DM from a name I didn't recognize at first. Hannah S. She introduced herself as Devin's ex-fiancé. Yes, ex-fiancé. He'd been engaged before, 3 years ago. She wrote, I saw your post. I've been where you are. He did it to me too. He charmed my family, got them to invest in his startup, then disappeared with everything. He's not just a scammer, he's a pattern. And he always targets people with assets and fractured families. You're not the first, but maybe you can be the last. I just stared at the message. He'd done it before, and no one saw it coming. Because he always picked the right people. People like Cassandra, people like Grandma, people who'd rather erase a son than admit they were wrong. That night, I wrote my own story. Not for Instagram, not for Reddit, but for the press. I reached out to the finance blog that covered his lawsuits, sent them the full file, the photos, the messages, the timeline. They responded in an hour, said they were already working on something. They asked if I wanted to stay anonymous. I said no. Let them know it was me. Let them all see who they cut out. And then, right as I was about to close my laptop, I got one final message. From Cassandra. Just 3 words. How could you? I stared at the screen. And then I smiled. Because for the first time, she had no control over the narrative. And deep down, I knew. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning of their unraveling. To anyone reading this who's ever been made to feel like your silence equals insignificance, I hope you know that your absence can be louder than anything you've ever said. And when you finally speak, make sure it's the truth they can't twist. The article went live on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, it had over 200,000 views. Crypto con man leaves. Trail of emotional and financial ruin. Meet his latest target. That was the headline. But the story? It wasn't just about Devin. It was about Cassandra, about Odell, about how a family silenced the one person who tried to protect them, then begged him to come back when it all fell apart. They didn't expect me to go public. They didn't expect me to have proof. They definitely didn't expect a second woman to come forward, and a third, each with nearly identical stories. Same promises, same manipulation, same outcome. The blog published a follow-up piece the next week. He never acted alone. It included screenshots of Cassandra's texts bragging about the business empire they were building. Voice memos where she told a friend she was grooming Devin to be the face while she pulled the strings. And then came the receipts, documents I'd collected that proved she knew the LLC wasn't secure. She knew the transfer of the house was a gamble, but she took it anyway, and when it all fell apart, she cried wolf. The GoFundMe was shut down permanently. Several donors filed claims to retrieve their money, citing fraud. Cassandra deleted her Instagram. Grandma? She went quiet. No calls, no messages, just silence. But the biggest blow came 2 weeks later. A lawyer contacted me, said he represented a local property preservation group. Apparently the house Devin owned through the LLC was now in foreclosure. He defaulted on the business loan, and with no collateral left, the LLC was dissolving. Here's where it gets poetic. Since the property was transferred fraudulently, without legal consultation or familial protection clauses, the firm had reason to believe I could contest the transfer. Because I had history there, because I had documentation of investment and care, because my name was on multiple records Grandma had submitted in her own previous filings, ones she forgot to erase when she tried to rewrite the family story. Long story short, I filed, and I won. Not the house, not the building, but something far better. Legal recognition. A formal ruling that the transfer had been done in bad faith. That my financial contributions and caretaking history held merit. That I had a legitimate stake in the estate, something they couldn't erase or sell off ever again. It wouldn't undo what happened. Wouldn't bring back the porch swing or the smell of lemon pie from the kitchen or the childhood memories tied to every wooden floorboard. But it gave me peace. It gave me justice. A week later, I stood in front of the house one last time. Boarded windows, overgrown grass, faint outline of my initials still carved into the railing. I didn't take a photo, didn't post, didn't need to, because I wasn't there for them anymore. I was there for me. They told me I wasn't part of the family, so I built a story they couldn't control. They told me I was dramatic, so I gave them a headline they'd never forget. And when they asked me to fix what they broke, I gave them silence. Sometimes the deepest betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who smile while erasing you. And sometimes the loudest justice is quiet, steady, and documented. If you've ever been left out, used, or rewritten in someone else's version of the story, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. And if this resonated with you even a little, you're always welcome here. Let's stay connected.